Is it too early for fantasy baseball rankings? It's never too early. Let's talk about catchers on fantasy baseball today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5. Today is Tuesday, October 18th. I am Frank Stanfield, joined by Scott White, and let's take a look at Scott's early 2023 catcher rankings, and we'll start with his top 5, which includes JT Realmuto, Dalton Varsho, Salvador Perez, Adley Rutchman, and Will Smith. Obviously, there's some big names on this list here, Scotty, but Salvador Perez is one that stands out because I know you loved him this past season, and he's ranking very highly once again. Why is that?
Because I think when he returned from thumb surgery in July, late July, he was basically the player we all drafted him to be in round 3 or whatever it was this past year. I understand he burned a lot of people. He tried playing through that thumb injury for so long early in the year. The final numbers aren't nearly as impressive. But just looking at the time from the time he returned, if you project those numbers out over the 161 games he played in 2021, it comes out to 34 homers and 119 RBI. So that the home run's basically 2/3 of that amazing production in 2021. 48 homers. Okay, probably wasn't going to do that again, but I felt like he just needed to get 2/3 of the way there to justify the draft pick. He basically did from the time he returned from the thumb surgery on that kind of pace. And the 119 RBI was almost exactly what he did in 2021. So I expect him to be the front runner in those two categories at the catcher position again going into next year. We know he's going to play a ton, and the power is still clearly there.
All right, let's also highlight Adley Rutchman of this group, who comes in as your number 4 ranked catcher for 2023. We know coming into the season that he was arguably, the top prospect in all of fantasy baseball. He was fine, 254, 13 homers, 70 runs scored, but especially in points league, Scott, the plate discipline is amazing. He's going to walk a lot, makes a lot of contact, and obviously we're expecting him to get even better. Batting average will climb. Hopefully some of those doubles turn into home runs, and as a result, I think he will be drafted as a top 5 catcher next year.
Yeah. Oh, I think top 5 is a really safe bet. He's going to be the hype player at the position. It wouldn't surprise me if he gets pushed up to 2nd overall. In points leagues, I'd actually rank him 2nd among catchers behind just Realmuto. But even in 5x5 leagues, just given the upside and how good he looked as a rookie, it wouldn't surprise me. I'm not going to be the one reaching for him because I don't see myself reaching for anybody at this position. It's actually surprisingly deep, at least by catcher standards, and high-end talent this upcoming year, as deep as it's been in a long time. So I won't be the one reaching for Rutschman 2nd at the position, but I think a lot of people will. I also want to point out real quick before we move on to the back 5 here in the top 10. I have Salvador Perez 3rd. I have Will Smith 5th with Adley Rutschman between the two. I think the consensus rankings will probably have them flipped. Will Smith looks like a very safe pick, very safe bet for high-end production. It's kind of gone from being the hype guy himself to the safe guy. But I think Salvador Perez, certainly in those power categories, I actually think he has more upside, so I'd rather have him.
All right, let's move on to 6 through 10 in the early 2023 catcher rankings, and that includes Alejandro Kirk, Willson Contreras, followed by William Contreras, then Sean Murphy, and Travis d'Arnaud. Let's focus on the Contreras brothers here, Scott. It was a tale of 2 seasons for Willson of the Chicago Cubs, now a free agent. We'll see where he winds up. But at the end of the year, it looked like a Willson Contreras year. Not so great batting average, some good power, solid counting stats. And for his brother, he was even better on a per-game basis. 278 batting average, 20 homers in just 97 games played. Their StatCast numbers are basically identical.
Crazy.
The problem is, do we actually trust this with William Contreras? Like, do you think he's this good of a player legitimately? Talk to me about both Contreras brothers.
Yeah, I do. He got a little bit overshadowed in the Braves minor league system. Guys like Shea Langoliers, who ended up being the big piece moved in the Matt Olson deal, made it so William Contreras was overlooked. But he he looks like the future at the catcher position for the Braves. And even with Travis d'Arnaud there, may be the present at the DH position. The only reason he didn't get more starts there this past year is because Ronald Acuna needed to play so much DH. Not going to be an issue next year with Acuna's knee hopefully feeling even better. And yeah, uncanny how close their StatCast measures are, William and Willson, the two brothers there. That's part of the reason why I think we can have faith in William Contreras' productivity. He does strike out a little more than his older brother, has time to improve that, of course. So I think the most questionable part of his skill, of his stat line, is the 278 batting average. But I think he'll get even more playing net time next year, and I think he'll be a quality starter for you at this position.
All right, last point I'll mention here. Sean Murphy, who you have ranked 9th on the list, did make huge strides in terms of his strikeout rate, but I think he's a candidate to be traded, and if he does, his career numbers on the road are much, much better than playing in Oakland Coliseum, so just something to remember if Sean Murphy is traded this offseason. If you want to hear the top 20 in Scott's rankings, then you can listen to the entire Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, your smart speakers, or anywhere else podcasts are found. And thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. We'll be back again on Thursday morning. Bye-bye.